Living inside a dream. We're doing a thing and we'll fly. Ooh. All right. All right. I'm in a good mood today. I'm in a very good mood today, which is good. Which is a very good thing. Because if I wasn't in a good mood, I might go a little ballistic and say some things that I'd regret. In any case, there's a lot of energy out there today. There's a lot of energy out there today, and I'm excited. And I think you should be too. And it's not just because it's election day, which, by the way, tonight I'm going to be hosting the Cross Politic election show starting at 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be on 10 to midnight, and Matt Williams is going to be there. So everyone who's been waiting to get another live stream with me and Matt Williams, you're going to get it on Cross Politic tonight, live at 10 p.m. Eastern. But I'm not just talking about election night. What I'm talking about is just the last couple years, man. I think that God is so clearly moving in ways that I don't think he was moving before. Like there's just such an energy in the room. And what I want to do a video today about is there's a certain kind of perspective. They're not really arguments. It's just really more of an emotion. It's really more of a perspective that big evil leaders like the guy on your screen, which we're going to talk about him in just a minute, there's a perspective that they try to come and really they try to rob you of your energy. They try to sap you of your energy, rob you of your joy, and pour cold water over all of the zeal that we see right now. Because I think so 2020 kind of really opened our eyes, right? Like we saw that, wow, we're in rough shape, man. There's a lot of leaders that are just, simply propagandists, tools of the state. There's a lot of fake Christians out there leading churches, for goodness sake, that close down their churches whenever daddy tells them to and stuff like that. And then, of course, the Black Lives Matter stuff was also part of that. 2020 was a really good year as far as seeing who's who and what's what. But since 2020, there's been so much energy in regular pew-sitting, blue-collar Christians, the kind that, they might not do that well on a theology exam. They might not know a lot about church history, but there's an energy and people are taking action, right? And I'm not just talking politically, although that is definitely part of it. I don't spurn politics, of course. That's an important part of our lives. But politically, of course, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of talk about Christian morals affecting and influencing and really driving the way our politics should be. Like our politicians and our government should be overtly either Christian themselves or pandering to Christian morality. And there's a lot of energy in that direction. Our enemies know it. They see it. And it's real. It's not a fake energy. But more than that, people are talking about how to organize entire economies that are separate from this evil world system that we find ourselves in. There's people that are starting businesses, and these are businesses that have traction. They have oomph behind them. They've got investment behind them. This is all really good stuff. I see this on Gab all the time, and I obviously that's a smaller sample size, so I'm not trying to say this is like bigger than it is, but it's real. It's real, and it's happening. There's a lot of energy behind that. There's a lot of energy behind rediscovering how the family should be run and how the family is so critical to God's system. And I'm not talking about in the limp-wristed kind of way. I'm talking about in the real biblical way with oomph behind it, with gravitas behind it. I'm seeing so much energy, and people talking about you got to have a big family because, we got to look to the future, right? We have this inheritance, right? We have this nation, and look, a lot of things have gone wrong, but that doesn't mean you can't start fixing things right now. And so you need to have at least 2 kids to replace you and your wife, but you need to have more than that in order to command the future, right? The pagans are destroying themselves by killing their children and encouraging their children to be homosexuals, which of course cannot bear fruit. We're going to do the opposite because that's what God says, and that's the plan, by the way. That's what God's plan is. God said he brought them together and made them one flesh. Why did he do that, right? Well, he did it for many reasons, but one thing the Bible specifically says is that he wants godly offspring. And again, you need more than 2 to replace you and your wife. And so we're seeing people rediscover this stuff as if it's new. It's not new. A lot of this stuff we've known for such a long time, but it feels new to us. And this energy and this zeal and this momentum that we have as a church it feels new to us, and I think that we see the harvest out there and we're like, man, this is ripening. We're going to reap a harvest, guys. That's what I fully believe. I think that the future for the church in the United States is glorious. But even if it's not, the energy is, it's just infectious. And of course, there's a lot of that right now going on. People are excited. People are making moves. But then there's always going to be someone that looks like this, who's going to come in and he's going to try to suck all the energy out of you. He's going to put on his righteous robes, in this case, a stupid-looking hoodie. He's going to put on his righteous robes, and he's going to say something to put a stop to the zeal that you're expressing for the Lord. He's going to try to suck all the oxygen out of the room so that fire goes out. He's going to try to juke you, is really what it is. This is called Jesus juking. And if you don't know what Jesus juking is, there's a fun way to do it, and then there's an evil way to do it. Like, let me tell you about my brother and I. Like, we do this to each other all the time. Like, I talk to my brother every day, right? I talk to him every day, and we talk about, what we're doing in business and stuff. And sometimes my brother will say something like this to me. He'll say, man, I'm having a hard time getting motivated to make my work calls today. Man, so it's just like I can't get motivated, and it's just, he says that to me, and we're just talking, and I'll say, well, Matt, I don't actually have that problem because I'm working as unto the Lord as opposed to working for my boss. And that's a juke, right? Like it's true. Obviously, we're supposed to be working as unto God. And so if we find ourselves with a lack of motivation, we need to get our heads together and start working, get to work, right? And I say it as a juke, right? Because it's true. But I'm not really trying to say to my brother that I think I'm better than him or I'm above it all or like I see clearly where he doesn't. Like it's mostly a joke to remind him of a truth, right? And so that's a fun way to do a Jesus juke. But then there's a way that's serious that really tries to elevate yourself above like regular Christians, right? I'm above it all. I'm seeing clearly. I'm above it all. I'm above the fray. And I hate that perspective so much because when you really get down to it, and by the way, I'm going to rip this guy right here because this is the tweet that I saw that made me think of this. This is very common, and most Big Eva people will take this kind of approach. But it's not just the evangelical leaders that you see on your screen. It's also people and your local communities that have this kind of perspective. And I think that you don't have to get all mad. You don't have to rip them to pieces. But I think when somebody says something like this, you really just got to ask. You just got to confront it directly. Why are you saying that? What is your motivation? What's your goal here? Why does it seem like you're trying to take the excitement and the energy and the joy and the zeal that is all over the place? Why does it seem like you're trying to put a stop to that? You got to really think about that perspective. You really got to think about that perspective. Here's a tweet from Jared C. Wilson. Now, if you don't know, I had a personal relationship with Jared C. Wilson. I actually, when I quit my job in New York City to become a pastor, I took an internship at his church, right? So it's not like we were best friends or anything, but we worked closely together. And we were close enough that even when he moved to Kansas City, me and my wife visited him. And him and his wife took care of our kids so we could go out on a date. They're very nice people in general. But he's one of these that takes this kind of perspective all the time. Here's what he said yesterday. No, it wasn't yesterday. It was Saturday. He says this: American evangelicals are prone to panic about the waning faith in our nation. But we forget America is not the center of Christianity. The center of Christianity is seated at the right hand of the Father, and of his kingdom there will be no end. Now, this is not the stupidest thing that he's ever said. It's not. In fact, this is a true statement, of course. We understand that Jesus is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He's seated at the right hand of the Father, and he's what Christianity is centered around. That's why we bear his name, right? That's why we're called Christians, right? Because that's Christ. Christ is what the religion is all about. He's who we worship. He's the center of Christianity. We all understand this. But he's trying to say, well, no, American Christians don't really understand that. They think that America is the center of Christianity. And so they panic. And that's a very carefully chosen word. This guy is, an aspiring wordsmith. And so he chose panic intentionally because panic makes it seem like you're going like, oh what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Like, and like you're freaking out, you're not making right decisions and stuff like that. That's what he is trying to pretend like we're doing. We sees this energy, right? He sees this zeal. He sees people that are finally waking up and saying, man, like, there really is no neutrality, right? There is no neutrality. Like, if you don't have Christ as your center, as a culture, as a civil government, as a family, as a church, that's how you end up with demon transsexuals trying to touch your children at the library, or at least get your children to touch them at the library. Like it's not like you can kind of miss this and only you're a little bit off, right? Like, yeah, maybe like they read a book about Hindus, but it's really harmless, really at the end of the day. No, it's never harmless. It always will be degeneracy. It always will be transsexual story hour. It always will be sexual perversion. It always will be child mutilation. It always will be abortion. It always goes back to killing babies. And people are waking up and they're like, well, we got to do something about this. And so what they're doing is they're reordering their families. As I said, they're starting businesses. They're saying, look, I don't want to participate in this world system anymore because I see the degeneracy that it promotes. They're changing their politics. They're changing what's important to them in their politics. And they're saying, no, we've got to put a stop to this. We can use the power of the state to put a stop to child grooming or child mutilation or child killing or all of these kinds of things that they're going after the children, of course, because that's what they always do. If you look historically, that's what happens. No, we actually can have a Christian government, a Christian culture, and all of these things. And that's actually a good thing. He sees all that, and he wants to suck the energy out of it. He wants to take all the oxygen out of the room, put out the fire, and he does it with these holy robes around him, all while he's saying he's holier than thou. This is being presented as this is the pious outlook. So, look, if your countrymen are leaving the faith and rejecting God, leading to all kinds of degeneracy, the pious view is to not really worry about that so much. Remember that Christ is, of course, the center of Christianity. No, Jared. You see, we do remember that Christ is the center of Christianity. In fact, that's what motivates us to be zealous for his glory, to be zealous that our country would acknowledge him, to be energized, to look into the future and say, you know what, our goal should be that our nation kiss the Son, lest we perish in our rebellion. That's what we need to do. We need to pay respects to the Son, do homage to the Son. That's another way to put it. Kiss the Son. Our culture should be serving Christ in every area, in our churches, definitely in our families, but also in our civil government. Our civil governing authority should be self-consciously serving Christ by being his revenger, executing vengeance upon evildoers, and promoting what is good. And what is good? The worship of Jesus Christ. That's what's good. That's the thing. We're not forgetting that Jesus is the center of Christianity. In fact, that's what drives us and motivates us to zeal, the very zeal that for some reason you want to pretend is panic, and it's inappropriate, and that's us forgetting that Jesus is the center. I think I know what's going on here. Now, obviously, this is my opinion, but I think a lot of these guys, I'm not going to say specifically him because I don't know, but I think he probably does fall into this category. He wants to make cowardice a virtue. He wants to make cowardice a virtue. Because if you look at the way that people like Jared here and others in evangelical leadership, if you see the way they approach yesterday's battles, slavery, civil rights, things like that, like you see how they talk about the Nazis or things like that, situations that, they're long since put to rest. They talk about those situations and slavery and all with zeal, right? They get energized. They have a lot of zeal and energy and motivation about yesterday's battles. But with today's battles, it's always softness. It's always lay your weapons down. It's always, you don't want to make an idol out of the family. It's always that kind of stuff. So it's always fight yesterday's battles with zeal. But the minute you have zeal with something that's going on today, it's like, whoa, what do you think? That you're the center of Christianity? What do you think? What do you think? Christ is not the center of Christianity? That's what happens. And the reason it happens is because to fight today takes a little bit of backbone. It takes cojones. It takes balls is what it takes. And they don't have that. They don't have that. So they don't want to do that in the public square. They, sure, maybe in their private, theology, mahogany, encased libraries, they'll talk big and bad. But they don't want to do it in the public square, because when you do it in the public square, you get dirty. You get dirty. And that's not what these men are about. And so they're cowards with today's battles. They're cowards. But they want to feel good about being a coward, so they pretend that they're above it all. They pretend that their cowardice is the pious way, is the way of Christ, and that is false. That is false. The reason why these people want to sap you of your energy is because you're showing them up every time. The reason why they want to suck all the energy out of the room, or the oxygen out of the room, is because every single time you go out there and you do something publicly in the public square, and you're not afraid of being called a racist or a bigot or a misogynist or whatever, anti-Semite, that's the big one these days. Oh, you're an anti-Semite. When you laugh at that, it makes them feel like a coward, and so they want to sap that energy. They want to put a stop to it, because that's a very uncomfortable feeling. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. When the world loves you, they know that that's not a good sign, and they feel uncomfortable about it. And so what they do is to pretend that that's actually the pious route, to not really be worried so much about the lack of faith in the United States, or the waning faith in the United States. Is that the energy that you get from Paul the Apostle? Does this look anything like Paul? Because when Paul's countrymen, his nation, his fellow citizens, when he sees them and they'd have no faith and they're falling into degeneracy and idolatry and whatever it is, what does he say? Does he say, well, you got to remember, like, don't worry, because what you got to remember is that Christ is the center of Christianity, not Israel. I mean, don't you remember? I guess that kind of doesn't really quite work, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. No, you don't get anything like that. He cares deeply about his countrymen. This is what he says in Romans 9. He says, "For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, for my kinsmen according to the flesh." He said, I could wish that I was cut from Christ for the sake of my kinsmen, for my countrymen, for my nation. He doesn't say, it's no big deal. America's not the center of Christ. Christ is. No, he's concerned with that. In fact, he's anguished so much that he's like, look, if I could somehow give myself up for them, I would do it. I can't, but if I could, I would. That's not the energy you get from Big Eva. That's not the energy, because they somehow want to spin it that, like, well, America's not special, so like maybe it's even good. Maybe it's even a good thing because the church is growing in Africa. That's the energy you get from these guys. It's like, who cares about America? The church is growing in Africa and China and all this kind of stuff. And again, I think that this is another way to sort of baptize cowardice. That's what they do, because they don't really have to fight for the church to grow in China. That's for the Chinese fight, but they don't have to do anything. They don't really have to fight for the church to grow in Africa. The Africans fight, and of course there's missionaries. I'm not saying there's no missionaries, okay? But they don't. Most people don't have to do much, maybe except send a few dollars their way and pray for them and things like that. But they're actually not in the public square fighting. But here in the United States, where they should have the most care, because this is where you live. These are your countrymen. These are the people that Paul said that he wishes he could be accursed. Here, you would actually have to put some skin in the game. You'd risk something here to fight here. And so they want to make it seem like, well, it's no big deal because the church is growing in China and Africa. And it's like the reason they do that is so that they can feel pious and good about being cowards, being lazy and being cowards. They want to suck the energy out of the room so that they feel good about being cowards. They want to put the attention on the church growing over there so that they can feel good about being do-nothings over here. And I'm so sick of that perspective. You need to watch out for it because it can come across pious, but in the end, it has nothing in common with Paul the Apostle. we are working here, and we're working here, and we want God to see us working here in the public square, see us reaching out to unbelievers, see us reaching out to nominal Christians, because, they bear the name of Christ too, and it's time that they started living up to that and understanding what it means to bear that name of Christ. You call yourself a Christian, you've been baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's not a small thing. And you need to take that seriously. And here is what that looks like. You need to disciple those people. You need to reach out to them and work with them. And we're here and we're working for God's kingdom. And no, we don't think it depends on us, but God has condescended to work through us. And so we want to be like Nehemiah, where Nehemiah, if you read Nehemiah is, I hate this word, but I use it every now and then, so maybe I don't hate this word. Nehemiah was so based, it's unbelievable. Nehemiah is doing all these things, and he's ordering the people of Israel to rebuild the gates and all this kind of stuff. And he a number of times in the book, he talks to God and he says, "God, remember me. Remember this also in my favor, oh my God, and spare me according to the greatness of your steadfast love." He says, "Remember me, oh my God. Don't wipe out my good deeds. Remember what I have done for the house of my God." He says, "Remember me favorably, oh my God. Remember all that I have done for this people." It's almost like he's pleading with God. Look, he's saying, "God, I know we've turned our backs from you. I know that there's a lot of unbelief right now. There's a lot of faithlessness right now." It's a very similar situation to what this guy is talking about here in the United States, where he's like, "Oh, you're panicking," right? And the thing is, like Nehemiah, if you look at what he did, what he's telling God to remember, right? He's saying, "God, remember me favorably for what I did." And he says, "Have mercy on me for what I did. Love us according to your steadfast love for what I did." What did he do? Well, it's right there in the story what he does. The people were being faithless. They were intermarrying with other religions and ethnicities, people that served other gods, and that was not allowed according to their law. And what does he do? He rebukes them to their face. I don't think that doesn't sound like a very clean and nice and lovely man, the thing a lovely man would do. He rebukes them to their face. He pulls out their beards. He beats them. And he makes them swear an oath to God that they would never act so faithlessly again. Like he's taking action, right? He's fighting the fight that's right in front of him, the one that's right in his backyard, that's in the public square. He's fighting the fight. And you know what? Sometimes you have to crack a few eggs to fight that fight. And I could just imagine the peanut gallery of Big Eva from his time saying, Nehemiah, I mean, you don't need to panic because of the faithlessness of your kinsmen. It's like, don't you know that God is the center of your religion, not this place, not these people? Don't you know, Nehemiah? And it's like, I could just imagine what a guy that looks like this would say. He'd be like, Nehemiah, don't you remember? You're supposed to be nice. Meanwhile, Nehemiah's here. Look, this is the position that a lot of us are taking right now. Like we're in the public square and we're taking action, and some of us are doing it in a blue collar kind of a way, kind of like how I see Nehemiah. Because if you know anything about Nehemiah and Ezra, they were working at the same time, right? They were accomplishing the same ends. But Ezra was more of like the white collar sort of learned, studious academic. And he worked together with Nehemiah, who was a little bit more, we're going to crack some skulls kind of a guy. And both of them are commended by God for their faithfulness. Both of them work together. You need both of them, right? But I could just imagine, like we're in the same situation. Like a lot of us are working right now because we want to say, God, I know our country has in large parts abandoned you. I know that we've succumbed to so much degeneracy, and we've tolerated degeneracy, the likes of which that people haven't seen on this world in decades and centuries. I know, but look at all of this that we're doing, God. Remember us favorably, oh God. And it's not because what we're doing is so great, because look, we're not doing everything right. We're making some mistakes. We're making some, but we're working, right? We're trying to fight today's battles. We're not content to pretend like it's pious to be okay with the faithlessness of your peers. You should not be okay with the faithlessness that's happening in the United States, no matter what these kinds of people say. They're going to say it in their stupid, and they always look like this too. They're always, it's unbelievable. I could just imagine what he would say, what this guy would say to Nehemiah. And so we're like, God, remember us favorably, God. Have mercy upon us, oh God. Remember your steadfast love to your people. Look, we're making moves, we're working, we're trying, we're making the reforms necessary. Remember us, oh God. Don't destroy us yet. Just like Nehemiah. And the thing is, like, look, there are people that are going to try to throw cold water over your energy and your zeal and your excitement. There are people that are going to do that. And there's a lot of different reasons why people do it. Some of them do it because they just don't want anything to change, right? They actually don't want Christianity to influence the nation. They're actually enemies, right? But some of them will do it because they're cowards and because it makes them look bad when you get results when they don't. They're too scared to fight today's fights. They don't want to be a Nehemiah. They don't want to be an Ezra. They want to sit on the sidelines and talk about how I can't believe. Look at them. They're like they don't look like we say they should look like. They're not as nice as we say they should be. They're not lovely and respectable like Joe Biden. Like they want to sit on the sidelines and naysay because they're not comfortable fighting. They're not comfortable cracking skulls when they need to. They're not comfortable doing that. And that version of Christianity that's trying to be nicer than Jesus, that's they're so pious and perfect that they don't even act because they're afraid to sin. They don't even do anything because they're afraid to sin when they're doing it. Like that's not the kind of Christianity that's going to be commanding the future. That's not the kind of Christianity that we need right now. We need Christians that are faithful, that are not afraid to act, and they know that their journey has been vouchsafed by God. Don't let anyone rob you of that. God has vouchsafed your journey. He's got your back. If you make a mistake and you don't do the right thing, you don't vote for the right person, things like that, like it doesn't really work out the way you hoped it would, God's got you covered, man. God's got you covered. He's going to protect you. He loves you. He's got steadfast love for you. So don't be a coward. Don't let the cowards tell you how to run what you're doing, how to run your family, how to run your business. When you've got energy, you've got zeal, find people that are going to encourage you. They're going to encourage you in your zeal for Christ because that's what matters. You're serving an audience of one. It's Jesus Christ. And so no matter how many holy robes or stupid hoodies that these people get around them as they're trying to Jesus juke you into non-action or to at least less zeal, Don't buy it. Don't let them do it. I'm so sick of this perspective. This perspective, it's going by the wayside, by the way, but allow me to just give you encouragement in your energy and your zeal. These are good things. Honor God in it. Don't worry about the naysayers. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like these naysayers will say anything. It's like we're rediscovering like for the first time. God wanted godly offspring, so let's have some kids and let's have godly offspring into the future. That's going to be a positive for the country. And these guys, what do you think? Idolatry of the family? Like that's insane. That's insane. And that's this energy right here. That's this energy. Just don't give them any more influence over you. That's my point. Don't give these people, these cowards, any more influence over you than they've already have. In any case, hope all is well. I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.